So Michael Cohen, also known as Trump's right-hand man or his fixer, he testified in front of Congress, and boy, oh boy, did he spill the beans. So this was kind of like a soap opera, and it was really fascinating. It's a little upsetting, though, that mainstream media in the U.S. pretty much totally ignored two stories that are more important. One of them being the North Korea summit, and the other one being what's happening in India and Pakistan. Now, we already spoke about the North Korea summit on this show. I'm going to get to the India and Pakistan story in a little bit. But, those are definitely more important stories, but mainstream media was just hard over this story. It was a little insufferable, but I agree it was kind of entertaining to see what was going on. And so Michael Cohen really, just laid it all out there. Now he's partially trying to save his ass, and he made a deal with authorities, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that what he's saying is untrue. So, Justice Democrat and all-around awesome politician Ro Khanna, he had one of the most substantive lines of questioning against Michael Cohen. I want to play this for you, and then I'm going to break it down.
Mr. Cohen, I want to focus my questions on the smoking gun document you have provided this committee. This document is compelling evidence of federal and state crimes, including financial fraud. You provided this committee with a check from President Donald J. Trump's revocable trust account, which is marked as Exhibit 5B. It is a check for $35,000, and it is dated March 17, 2017, after the president took office. It's right now on the screen. Do you see it, sir?
Yes, sir.
To be clear, the Trump Revocable Trust is the trust the president set up to hold his assets after he became president. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Do you know why you were paid from the trust as opposed to the president's personal account?
I don't know the answer to that.
Did you think it was odd that he paid you once from his personal account and then he's paying you through the scheme of a trust?
I'll be honest, I was just happy to get the check.
Today you testified that the check was signed by Donald Trump Jr. and the Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg. Is that correct?
That is correct.
According to the criminal charges against you, you sent monthly invoices containing false information to an individual identified as Executive 1. Weisselberg is Executive 1, correct?
Yes.
The criminal charge against you then states that Executive 1 forwarded your invoice to someone referred to as Executive 2. Presumably, Donald Trump Jr., who's signing this check, is Executive 2, correct?
I believe so.
As federal prosecutors laid out in their criminal charges, payments like this check resulted in numerous false statements in the books and records of the Trump Organization. And it's important for the American public to understand this. Nothing to do with collusion. This is financial fraud, garden variety financial fraud. It was disguised as a payment for legal services to you. But this was not a payment for legal services, was it, Mr. Cohen?
No, sir.
It could give rise to serious state and federal criminal liability if a corporation is cooking its books. Based on your testimony today, Donald Trump Jr. and Alan Weisselberg directed this payment to you and approved this payment. Is that right?
Mr. Trump initially acknowledged the obligation, the debt. Myself and Alan Weisselberg went back to his office, and I was instructed by Alan at the time that they were going to do this over 12 installments. And what he decided to do then was to have me send an invoice, in which case they can have a check cut. And then, yes, the answer would be yes to your follow-up.
And Donald Trump Jr. obviously signed off on this.
Yes, well, it would either be Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and or Alan Weisselberg, but always Alan Weisselberg on the check.
And you think Executive 2 is Donald Trump Jr.?
Yes.
They knew that this payment was false and illegal, correct?
I can't make that conclusion.
You told Representative Kelly that the president was aware of this scheme. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I just want the American public to understand the explosive nature of your testimony in this document. Are you telling us, Mr. Cohen, that the president directed transactions in conspiracy with Alan Weisselberg and his son, Donald Trump Jr., as part of a criminal conspiracy a financial fraud. Is that your testimony today?
Yes.
And do you know if this criminal financial scheme that the president, Alan Weisselberg, and Donald Trump Jr. are involved in is being investigated by the Southern District of New York?
I'd rather not discuss that question because it could be part of an investigation that's currently ongoing.
But I just want the American public to understand that solely apart from Bob Mueller's investigation, there is garden variety financial fraud. And your allegation and the explosive smoking gun document suggests that the president, his son, and his CFO may be involved in.
The video cut off a little early there, but it was the only one I could find. But, okay, this is incredibly important because I think that my prediction that I made on what's going to happen here, I'm now 99% certain that's how it's going to unfold. So in other words, the point I've made time and time again is Donald Trump will not be brought down because of collusion or because of treason or because of working with Russia. Okay, now there are some people on the Democratic side who are going to be like, I don't know, distraught based on that fact because they've invested so much into the most extreme interpretation of Russiagate. But what I want to tell those people, and what I keep telling those people is this: there's no reason to be distraught. Donald Trump is going to get his day. And it's going to be the day he's no longer president, he's going to be indicted on like a dozen, criminal charges. So you're going to have tax evasion, you're going to have money laundering, you're going to have fraud, you're going to have just a variety of financial crimes that he will be indicted on those crimes. And what Ro Khanna does here is a wonderful job of getting to specifics on that and getting verification on that. So that's why that clip was so important. Now, at a time when other Congress people were grandstanding like nobody's business and were just looking for, wanting to get a soundbite for themselves. It was like all selfish and not well researched and just kind of bloviating. At a time when that was happening, Ro Khanna goes in there and hits everybody over the head with substance and really gets an important back and forth recorded. Now, not only that, so this is Justice Democrat Ro Khanna with a super substantive exchange, but we also have Justice Democrat AOC had a great back and forth with Michael Cohen as well. Take a look at that.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cohen, I'd like to quickly pick up on some previous lines of questioning before getting into my own, so I may go a little quickly to get it all in 5 minutes. First, my colleague from Vermont had asked you several questions about AMI, the parent company of the National Enquirer. And in that, you mentioned a treasure trove, a quote, treasure trove of documents in David Pecker's office relating to information assembled from all these catch and kill operations against people who potentially had damaging information on the president. You also mentioned that the president was very concerned about the whereabouts of these documents and who possessed them. Does that treasure trove of documents still exist?
I don't know. I had asked David Pecker for them.
So you would say the person who knows the whereabouts of these documents would be David Pecker?
David Pecker, Barry Levine, or Dylan Howard.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I want to ask a little bit about your conversation with my colleague from Missouri about asset inflation. To your knowledge, did the president ever provide inflated assets to an insurance company?
Yes.
Who else knows that the president did this?
Alan Weisselberg, Ron Lieberman, and Matthew Calamari.
And where would the committee find more information on this? Do you think we need to review his financial statements and his tax returns in order to compare them?
Yes, and you'd find it at the Trump org.
Thank you very much. The last thing here, the Trump Golf Organization currently has a golf course in my home borough of the Bronx, Trump Links. I drive past it every day, going between the Bronx and Queens. In fact, the Washington Post reported on the Trump Links Bronx course in an article entitled, "Taxpayers Built This New York Golf Course and Trump Reaps the Rewards." That article is where many New Yorkers and people in the country learned that taxpayers spent $127 million to build Trump links in a, quote, generous deal, allowing President Trump to keep almost every dollar that flows in on a golf course built with public funds. And this doesn't seem to be the only time the president has benefited at the expense of the public. Mr. Cohen, I want to ask you about your assertion that the president may have improperly devalued his assets to avoid paying taxes. According to an August 21st, 2016 report by the Washington Post, while the president claimed in financial disclosure forms that Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida, was worth more than $50 million, he had reported otherwise to local tax authorities that the course was worth, quote, no more than $5 million. Mr. Cohen, do you know whether this specific report is accurate?
It's identical to what he did at Trump National Golf Club at Briarcliff Manor.
Do you know, to your knowledge, was the president interested in reducing his local real estate bills, tax bills?
Yes.
And how did he do that?
What you do is you deflate the value of the asset, and then you put in a request to the tax department for a deduction.
Thank you. Now, in October 2018, the New York Times revealed that, quote, President Trump participated in dubious tax schemes during the 1990s, including instances of outright fraud that greatly increased the fortune he received from his parents. It further stated from Mr. Trump, quote, he also helped formulate a strategy to undervalue his parents' real estate holdings by hundreds of millions of dollars on tax returns, sharply reducing his tax bill when those properties were transferred to him and his siblings. Mr. Cohen, do you know whether that specific report is accurate?
I don't. I wasn't there in 1990s.
Who would know the answer to those questions?
Alan Weisselberg.
And would it help for the committee to obtain federal and state tax returns from the president and his company to address that discrepancy?
I believe so.
Thank you very much. I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
I mean, it's such a night and day difference between what Ro Khanna, AOC, and all the other Congress people said and how they questioned him, because look at how much was just admitted there. I'm telling you, it's a guarantee that Donald Trump is going down on financial crimes the day that he's no longer president. 100%. Honestly, it's a miracle he was able to get away with all this stuff to this point, and in a weird twist, he's actually protected a little bit by the fact that he's president, because it's an open legal question as to whether or not you can indict a sitting president. Chances are you have to. The only way you can get get the president is to impeach him, and to impeach him, it has to be crimes that were done basically while he was in office, high crimes and misdemeanors. So what we're talking about here it's Trump committing financial crimes going back probably to the 1980s and onward. And now that he became president, he's under this microscope, he's in this investigation that's uncovering so much, his top fixer flipped on him, never mind his financial guy, Weisselberg, who they keep mentioning, who's flipped on him. So, yeah, it's basically a guarantee Trump is going down the day he's no longer president. And that list of crimes is so long, and AOC and Ro Khanna did a wonderful job exposing this here. And, fear not. For all the people in the Russiagate, collusion, treason crowd, you're not going to get what you want, but you're still going to get quite a bit, which is Donald Trump basically going down in flames. And I think it's never been more clear than it is right now.